Hi, Melanie. Welcome again with Italtile and all of our followers. Are you well?
Very well, thanks. And you?
We all good, thanks. So for this month, we're focusing quite a bit on nature and nurture. Following moving down to lockdown one, as you know, a lot of people are trying to find their normal, and I know we've spoken a lot about it in the past couple of sessions we've had with you about people finding things within their homes and households to bring them closer to nature. But what we found more often than not in the past couple of weeks is a lot of people aren't traveling. They are spending a lot more time at home. So we've had a lot more questions come through. So we're hoping that today you'd be able to keep in tune with us and let us know your thoughts on all of this matters.
Yes, with pleasure. Let's go.
Okay, so one of the first questions we received is our urban lives disconnect us from true nature out there, from what we vibe with instinctively. More and more, we are attempting to create connection with the natural world, bringing nature home. What are the quick and easy ways to bring nature into our homes?
So, Nicole, there's some very simple and easy ways to bring nature into your living spaces and to reconnect to the natural world around us. And they don't necessarily have to be a massive investment. So things like fill your home with houseplants. Houseplants are the easiest way to bring nature into your home. Obviously, pick plants that are suitable for an indoor type of environment. And also, houseplants, other than adding to that natural feel and being part of our decor, they can have a really positive effect on your health because they help reduce stress and anxiety and they remove toxins from the air you breathe. So, what we know in South Africa as the mother in law's tongue is one of the best indoor plants for the removal of toxins in our living spaces. So, start with a houseplants. Next up, you could do something like a nature wall mural. So, for example, create an eye-catching feature wall of an image of nature. It could be an image you've taken. It could be a stock image. So you often see it I often see it in teenagers' rooms. They'll have a huge blown-up photograph of a wave that has been turned into a wallpaper in their living spaces. That's definitely something you can do. Another one that I really like to do, and it goes back to the conversation you and I were having on our last recording, is about the plants that we tend to kill and bring back to life and kill and bring back to life. And this is definitely one of them that I do, is having herbs in your kitchen. These are the plants I love to kill. So, having delicious homegrown herbs and spices really helps with improving the taste of your dishes, but they're also quite unique and attractive when they're displayed properly, and they bring in a lovely smell into your living spaces as well. Not necessarily when you're cooking, but just by being in that space and having the sun on them, they'll just imagine that smell of rosemary. Another way is to add nature-themed accessories, so incorporating natural accessories that complement other elements in your living space. So it could be cushions, bedding, paintings, and any item that speaks of or lends itself to a natural theme. So, for example, when I say bedding, it could be linen rather than cotton. Linen is a much more unprocessed natural fiber. Cushions, there's a trend at the moment for fauna and flora to appear on all of our scatter cushions. So bring in those sort of images on those sorts of items. You can also use natural items for unique decor, stones, shells, driftwood. Even on the other end of the scale is those large petrified coffee table root tables that you get. That's bringing nature into your living space. Okay, so one of the natural elements that we take for granted, particularly living in South Africa, is how much availability of sort of bright, sunny, beautiful natural light we have. Especially during our warmer seasons, it's really important to let that into your living spaces to create a sense of health and nature. So another way you can do it is using natural wood and fiber furniture. It looks and it feels great. It's also a really good investment. that lends itself to also things like wood-look tiles. Just the mere look of it will help bring that natural look through. It doesn't have to be you've got parquet flooring. One of my favorites, and one day I'm going to be brave enough to do this, is installing something like a living green wall. So it's a very, very striking feature. You most often see it more in commercial spaces. It's a wall covered with living plants, with moss and succulents and those sorts of things, and everything's wall mounted. The plants are installed close together, which gives you that full wall effect. The challenge with these is you've got to get the drainage and the irrigation system right. But something like that would be beautiful, trying to bring the outdoors in. Freshly cut flowers is another option. So also quite inexpensive and convenient, which makes them perfect if you don't want to go to the expense of, for example, buying new furniture. And also don't limit yourself just to a bunch of cut daisies, for example. Beautiful long branches of eucalyptus would also bring in a lovely scent as well as a sense of a fresh flower. So just think a little bit out of the box on those. And then it's not necessarily, the last one I've got for you is not necessarily something that will bring nature into your home, but I think it's still quite important to consider, buy eco-friendly, buy as sustainable as you possibly can. It really helps benefit the environment, which is going to help benefit us all in the long run.
Okay, thanks, Melanie. You did mention something about the large prints on pillows and bedding, etc., etc. And I know for the past year or so, I think even 2 years, we've had that large, delicious monster green leaf that's just been on everything you can think of. It came in quite strong and it's still around. Do you think that's going to be around for a while? Because I think everybody's got some kind of print like that in their house.
So as the new ranges are coming up from the fabric houses, you can definitely see the trend. So it started off as a very obvious, like you said, a delicious monster leaf. But the trend has morphed over time, as trends do. So now you'll see a little bit more of an edgy, almost slightly Art Deco type of botanical. There's a lovely range in South Africa where it's done on a velvet. And they do a lot of local employment and skills development. And they've got the most beautiful leopards and monkeys and tropical vines and all sorts of things on there. So that's a shift away from the obviousness of the delicious monster across to something that's a little bit more mystical almost in a way, but it's all in that natural theme. So this trend is going to be around for a while. It's going to continue to morph and change, but it's definitely around for a while.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, the next question I've got, and coming up to December with a lot of people traveling, we've picked up that a lot of people won't be traveling throughout December and over the holidays, and pretty much investing in their homes. So I wanted to find out about DIY activities that people could do at home, as well as outdoors, because I think if we're not by the sea or by the beach, and I'm talking about us Valis up here in Gauteng, but if we are staying home for the Christmas season, renovating the outdoors braai areas, can you give us some guidance and some advice on that?
So yes, I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be as much moving around for the next little while than there normally is. And having with everybody having been homebound in lockdown over the last couple of months and really having to live and work and be with their loved ones in a confined space has shifted the way that people are engaging with that space. So interestingly, one of the biggest upticks at the moment, and it's a really obvious one as I say it, is investment in a home office. So everybody is now working from home. So you need more ergonomically friendly desks, you need more desk space, whereas before you might have just had a study space for the kids, you've now got two parents who are having to have quiet space as well. So there's that sort of shift in social norm happening, and we've seen it a lot with clients. I think with people spending more time in their own spaces, that's definitely where their investment and their interest and their activity is going. So you get your sort of expected type DIY projects where somebody will just be repainting, for example. And interestingly enough, that's the highest trend globally during this pandemic of around the world, is people have been painting either the inside or the outside of their house.
Do you think that's because of people, it's easy to do, so you don't really need much knowledge to do it, and it's a quick fix, and also it doesn't cost that much?
Exactly. So it's a quick fix. I can do it myself. I can rope the family in, or they're working in the office and I can use that time. And it's a very easy fix, especially when it comes to the psychology of color. So you might find that people have during this time gone for a little bit of a different color than they would normally have in their home. And what it is psychologically they're processing the pandemic. The good news for Italtile is the second biggest trend, and I don't know how they did it during a pandemic, but the second biggest trend globally of DIY projects has been flooring. 13.5% of people, when they undertook a DIY project, they did flooring. Next on the list was your obvious ones like bathroom and kitchen remodeling. So that just gives you an idea of what people are spending their money on. But coming out of winter in South Africa and going into our warmer months, I think you're going to see a big shift of those funds or budgets or interest going into more about lifestyle. So, we're going to miss out being on the beach. We're going to miss out having Christmas with an ocean view. So people are going to want to invest in their outdoor living spaces. So in the global trend that I mentioned, flooring, you might find that people are going to be either paving or redefining their outdoor areas, for example. Redoing decking is a big one. Putting up pergolas, building outdoor furniture or investing in outdoor furniture. In one of the conversations we had a couple of months was the investment in the gardens around labyrinths, and the purpose of them and the work that goes into them. You'll find that people start doing that sort of thing. So creating private little spaces in their gardens or their outdoor areas for them to escape to, because they will be trapped at home with friends and family and will need some time away. Things like water features, things like swimming pools, anything that has got to do with an outdoor lifestyle in South Africa, you're going to see a big uptick in.
Perfect. That makes sense. Thank you so much. In one of the earlier questions, while you were answering, you mentioned flowers and, having greenery in the home. We've received one of the questions and just wanted to know if you could unpack real flowers versus artificial flowers versus dried flowers, and the features and benefits and what you advise we should do in our homes, also based on people like you and I that kill plants. So what is the best option there?
So dried and artificial flowers have come a very, very long way in our lifetime. The technology around the manufacturing of particularly artificial flowers has moved on quite a lot. So let's start with fresh flowers. Always my favorite thing to have is fresh flowers. They don't look fake. They bring a lovely scent to the room, but there's some downsides to them. Eventually the water turns green. You've got to trim the bottom of the stems off. They start to die. You've got to change the water. You've got to remove the dead plant material. So for each one, there's an upside and a downside, and it's really about what works for you, and it might be a combination of the two. So fresh flowers, there's nothing quite like the real thing, but fresh flowers, there's quite a lot of maintenance about them. Fresh flowers can also be quite pricey depending on what you're buying and when. When it comes to dried flowers, they're dried. You don't need to worry about watering them or trimming the stems or changing the water. It doesn't get all green and murky. But you don't get the scent and the freshness that you would from the real flowers. Also, dried flowers, I'm sure we all had a granny who had either potpourri or dried flowers in their house. I did. And they collect dust. So, which is not really attractive looking. It's very difficult to clean. And somebody with dust allergies, that's not really going to work for them. Another possible disadvantage with dried flowers is they do tend to lose a lot of their natural color once they're dried. They go a much more sort of toned down version of what they were, slightly grayer version. On the plus side of dried flowers, if you've got children or people or animals that are very allergic to pollen, this is perfect for them. Artificial flowers, and one of our recent chats, we spoke about artificial flowers and plants, and the same thing applies here that we spoke about then. So like dried flowers, artificial flowers don't need a lot of maintenance. There's none of that trimming, changing water, dying off. They will need to be dusted like dried flowers, and you need to keep them away from direct sun. And the reason for that is really good quality dried flowers are often made with a degree of silk in them. And particularly in South Africa, where our UV rays are really, really strong, direct sunlight will kill silk very, very quickly. So if you want your artificial flowers to last, keep them out of a direct sun. But they're really, really versatile. And like we said in that chat, combine artificial with eucalyptus. So you can tell I like eucalyptus stems. So I've got some fake, reasonable mid-priced eucalyptus stems. And what I did was I bought some real eucalyptus stems, but they weren't enough to fill the pot to the degree I wanted. So I mixed them in, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So it's a great way to give the bulk without the maintenance or the expense. Again, artificial flowers are great for anybody with allergies, available in lots of different colors and sizes. Probably the only downside I would say of artificial is a price. So if you buy cheap artificial flowers, they look cheap. Good artificial flowers, ones that complement an interior and work well when mixed with natural flowers, or you've got to go up and I just want to touch it and see if it's real. Those are quite pricey. They actually, it's more of an investment.
So I've seen, and we've tried that within some of our stores, mixing the real flowers and plants with artificial. We can't tell the difference, and it is quite an investment. But due to the maintenance of having air cons within our showrooms, we've also picked up that the real flowers don't last as long as we had hoped they would. So we have tried to mix them, and it has worked really well for us. Again, trying to keep the oxygen flowing and, the real life element within the stores. But based on the aesthetics and the look and feel and the upkeep and maintenance, the artificial flowers really have done us well.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so this last question is one that I've just thrown into the mix. Jane and I were busy investigating our nature and nurture theme for this month, and we came across swimming ponds. So we were so intrigued with this, and we'd done some investigating, and we threw that question to you because we knew that you'd be able to explain it in a way that probably our whole neighborhood's now going to have natural swimming ponds in their backyards. So, can you break that down for us and let us know your thoughts, ideas, and just unpack the swimming ponds a bit more?
So I remember seeing my first swimming pond probably it must have been about 8 or 10 years ago. I was house hunting, and I went to a little bit of an older house in an older suburb. And what they'd done is it had almost a raised pool in it, a proper constructed pool. And they had converted it into this natural swimming pond. And I remember being completely fascinated by it. And it's been a slowly adopted trend globally. But anybody in South Africa who has got a pool knows how much time and money is needed to maintain a normal pool. So there's a big trend shifting towards the natural pond pools, and it's really helping our environment quite a lot. So I think it's a good thing. So you can either build one from scratch, or you can convert an existing swimming pool into one. And when it comes to this sort of project, if you're going to take this on your own, I would recommend doing quite a lot of research up front and finding the right suppliers of the right type of shale and water filters and water-loving plants, or find a professional to do this for you, because this, again, would be a home investment. And I think in the long run, it will turn into a project that will probably add value to your property. But then do it properly. Don't sort of, chuck some rocks at the shallow end of your current swimming pool and hope like hell the fish survives. So how they work is there's actually no chemicals in pond swimming pools. It takes away all that HTH and the stuff that we throw in our pools at the moment. So instead, they benefit from perennial plants and water flora, which helps them, it keeps them clean. So it's its own little biosphere. And what happens is, as nature should, is it's cyclical and it fixes and feeds and oxygenates itself. So it relies on filters and moving water to do all of the heavy lifting. And if you're going to go to this level, invest in good quality filters for it. And you'll see when you research this or speak to the suppliers, the movement of water is really important, because that is what creates that natural biosphere cycle. It puts oxygen in the waters. So what happens is they construct the pool or adapt the current pool with walls or membranes that keep out the soil and the silt. And as I said, it can be created from scratch or converted from an existing in-ground swimming pool. And they've got biological filters in them, so something like natural stone or natural shale. And what that does is it absorbs all the phosphates and it promotes the growth of good bacteria to help combat or eat bad bacteria in that kind of environment. So it will have algae and it will have moss and it will have bacteria in it, but all the good stuff for that biosystem. And then a regeneration zone of plant life is built on one end, it's usually on the shallow end, of the primary swimming area. So you'll have a deeper area where you are able to get in and swim, but then you'll have on the other area, on the other side, and it's usually graded, is the regeneration zone where all of your plants and your water filters and your water movement systems work to keep it functioning and healthy. So the plants in that zone, what they do is they provide flora that acts as the natural filter for the water and for the swimming area, so it looks after the whole area. And it circulates in and out of the plant life. And you're going to need a special pump or a skimmer system to help those plants keep that ecosystem alive. But like I said, the one that I saw about 8 or 10 years ago was a conversion of an old traditional in-ground swimming pool. And it was probably the most magnificent thing that I'd seen in a garden. It had been made with an enormous amount of professional loving care. And it added this cool, calm, mysterious element to the South African garden, and particularly in our summers where it can be really, really hot. It was the most beautiful, restful place I've ever seen. So I definitely think they are worthwhile. The water's always in motion. It keeps the unwanted organic material that grows in warmer climates like ours. It naturally filters out materials. And hydroponic plants help that filtration system. Don't think it's got to be the size of an Olympic swimming pool. This could be a 3x3 area in your back garden. It could be a small oasis. It doesn't have to be huge, but I think the benefit far outweighs the size.
Perfect. We've also reached out to Carl from the Guild of Landscape, and we've sent him the same question. So
Great.
He's going to supply some more information on more of the technical side of it. But yeah, I think this I think this is something that really intrigues me. And doing our research as well, we've seen some magnificent pool ponds that are they really are amazing. I do believe that it will take a lot of time and a lot of effort and, like you said, a lot of love. Melanie, well, that's it from us. That's all the questions we have today. And again, thank you so much for all the effort and the information and the education.
Such a pleasure. I always enjoy our time together and the questions from your clients. It keeps me on my toes a little bit.
Perfect. Melanie, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Perfect. Thanks, Nicole.